Hello and welcome back to One Trek Mind with me, Raptor.
And me, Michael.
And today we're going through the next episode of Lower Decks, The Best Exotic Nanite Hotel. And this is again, unlike the first episode, a sort of two storyline arc episode. One following Boimler and one following the rest of them, essentially. So the cold open reveals that the Cerritos is at the Cosmic Duchess, a giant cruise ship station the size of a moon, which is basically an enormous vacation spot, and it's revealed that a swarm of nanites has infected the thing and is basically going around eating stuff to grow. Our group of characters is excited to go, but Boimler gets taken away by Ransom on some top secret mission. Mariner is horrified to find that she's going to have to work with who she believes is her ex-girlfriend, Jennifer. So Boimler, Ransom, and Billups, who is going undercover to the station, Boimler gets massively worried after talking to an officer who just recently went on a mission with Ransom and lost both his hands. And Boimler believes that he's going as basically a canary. I suppose red shirt would be a better metaphor, you know, an easily expendable crew member that's going to have to do all the dangerous stuff for Ransom.
He is actually in a red shirt as well.
We go back to the other group, and Mariner thinks that she split up with Jennifer because they basically haven't spoken in months, and then she realizes that actually they didn't have the conversation that they needed to have, and everything's a bit awkward. Rutherford names the nanites Glompus, which I'll be using for the rest of this video because I think it's adorable. They try to pressure Mariner into having the conversation with Jennifer that she's been avoiding, when it's revealed that Jennifer is actually leaving the ship anyway. So Mariner thinks she can completely avoid having the conversation by making sure the mission goes well and is over as quickly as possible so that Jennifer can leave the ship.
Classic Mariner tactic to avoid the problem entirely.
Yep. Unfortunately, her tactic to supercharge their trap goes badly wrong when it just gives Glompus more energy than it has had and escapes them, and they have to go running after. Meanwhile, things are not going well for poor old Boimler. He almost gets killed by a bunch of Cretaceans, who, if you didn't recognize them, are from Enterprise, and they are people that really don't like other people eating in front of them. Yeah, he almost gets killed by them to begin with.
They just get offended by everything.
They really do. And a bit later on, in chasing down a Denobulan on a ski area, Boimler almost gets himself killed on the run, nearly falls to his death off an impossibly high mountain, and then reveals to the Denobulan that they're chasing that he's from Starfleet, which immediately trips off the admiral they're coming to look for.
I was a little disappointed we didn't get to see the pufferfish face on that Denobulan, but that's okay.
With the others, it's revealed that T'Lyn, the Vulcan, has a particular liking for this Krog fellow, who apparently does good vibes with this musical instrument.
The vibe tubes.
But in the effort to capture Glompus, because Mariner and Jennifer are working together, they end up arguing and get distracted, and Glompus ends up supercharging itself and growing into a supersized D20 for any D&D players, capturing pretty much all of them apart from Jennifer, Mariner, and also rolling around destroying everything. Meanwhile, Boimler, Ransom, and Billups get captured during a relaxed river ride, and this eventually reveals the parody of their part of the episode, which is to be a parody of Apocalypse Now, the Vietnam film, if anyone's seen it, which in itself was referencing the Heart of Darkness. It's revealed that a Starfleet admiral has been hiding out here, avoiding going back on duty, and is AWOL, essentially, because he didn't like the system, the bureaucracy, the orders coming from up high, and he was made to go and milk space whales.
Only so many before it gets old.
Yeah, which ticked him off, and he's decided to just go AWOL and stay here on vacation forever. And unfortunately, it seems that Boimler kind of agrees with him, and kind of, at first at least, seems to understand how he feels. Meanwhile, Jennifer and Mariner are following the giant 20D. They end up in a tree and they're finally forced to have the discussion, and it's revealed that Jennifer knew they had split up all this time, but she just wanted to force Mariner to actually have the conversation. That's why she's been basically super clingy and basically trying to pressure Mariner into actually admitting what the situation was. Once that conversation is had and everything is amicable, they decide to work together to save the others. Back in Apocalypse Now, Boimler actually listens to Ransom, and Ransom reveals that basically he's invited Boimler along because he's the most prepared officer that he knows, to the point of almost being scarily over-prepared. And Boimler reveals this situation is like, it is exactly the same. He covers himself in sun cream and is so slippery he cannot be grabbed by the Admiral or his people, as he basically backstabs them.
I mean, he's wiry, as Ransom said. They need someone as wiry as him, and there's no one on the Cerritos as wiry as Boimler.
I did like the reference to having to crawl through shafts, which did bring back many a memory of Star Trek episodes where they have to go through Jeffries tubes.
I mean, it's a required skill. Happens in every single show.
And the Glompus plot is solved by T'Lyn using her musician idol's vibe tubes to destabilize the nanites and destroy the giant 20D that they have created. And it's revealed that actually they were being controlled by a microscopic Intrepid class starship, the Endeavour.
The best ship.
That has been stuck inside them from a universe that is microscopically smaller than ours, so their ship is super tiny. And at the end, the whole story sort of wraps itself up. The Admiral that was AWOL is not going back to milk space whales. He's going to work with the microscopically tiny Endeavour to get them back to their own dimension. There's this nice little scene where T'Lyn has a conversation with her, literally a rock god. He's stone, where it's revealed that Krog he studies Vulcan logic and stuff, so she's kind of has a fangirl moment, as much as any Vulcan can have a fangirl moment.
She even gets his autograph.
Yes, Tandy gives her an autographed picture of Krog, and at first T'Lyn is like, why would I want this? And then Tandy's like, oh well, I can just go and recycle it. And then Tandy's like, no, T'Lyn is like, no, I should keep this in case I need to study handwriting later, which is probably about as fangirl as the average Vulcan gets. And Mariner and Jennifer decide to remain friends. That's basically the episode. So, Michael, what do we think?
I liked it more than the previous one. Still probably not quite as much as the first. Just because, again, I feel like there are a few things that don't sit perfectly well with me. One, Boimler's whole plot, I feel like it's almost kind of cruel. Like, if you have someone in Starfleet who has decided, I'm not going back, the fact that they have a mission to go and like force him to go back is, I feel like, very against the code of Starfleet or the Federation, where you are essentially able to do whatever you want. Like, you can follow whatever life you want. If you want to just live a life of leisure for forever, there's no currency, there's no reason you can't do that. So I almost found it kind of mean for them to be like, oh no, you have to go back. You don't like your job? That's too bad. You're gonna have to. I just didn't really enjoy that aspect of it.
Well, I think the issue is that he was AWOL. He hadn't quit. He had gone absent without leave, and he was using his there was a line in the episode about him being a high up member of the club or whatever. Yeah, I think the inference was he was using his position as an admiral still in order to get the advantages of the admiralty while being absent without leave and not actually quitting. I think that's the reason why they went and got him back.
But again, they didn't have to get him back. They could have just exposed this to the resort, essentially, and said, okay, well, you can't be using your title anymore, but if you don't want to come back, then you don't have to come back. But they were straight up like, no, you're coming back with us. I'm just like, let the man do what he wants to do. That's the whole point of the Federation. You can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, true. It's not a true one-to-one recreation of the story of Heart of Darkness or Apocalypse Now, which is more where someone tries to take the position of almost a godlike figure or a demigod over a group of other people, which is not really what he was doing. Like, because the minute he said to them that they should lay down their lives, they all just decided to say no and leave. So it's not a completely accurate recreation of the elements of that story. But no, I do agree with you that maybe just firing him or decommissioning him, as would be the case. But again, I think this ends up skirting near to a question we are going to have to eventually discuss on the channel, which is how militaristic is Starfleet, because there are some people on the fan base who are very, it's not a military, you can't call Starfleet a military, and then there's the other side, which it's very militarized, it's almost too militarized for what it's claiming to be.
Basically the people who agree with Captain Jellicoe and the people who do not.
Yes, yes. That is a very common thread amongst people who support Jericho, support the fact that the Federation, or at least Starfleet, is a military.
The only other aspect of the episode that I guess it's not that I didn't like it, it just seemed like a kind of obvious thing to do something with, and they clearly didn't, was I mentioned right at the very start, like, maybe don't send Rutherford on a mission where there's nanites that are actively consuming metal and energy, and that's literally what he is, but they never do anything with it. It's like it never tries to consume him or infect him or anything along those lines. It even does consume him at one point along with everyone else, but it doesn't do anything to him specifically, which I was like, that's kind of weird. Again, I found it weird that they would even send him on the mission in the first place. It seems like a fairly obvious thing to be like, all right, you're going to have to stay on the ship because it's likely going to target you. So let's not have you be a part of this.
We literally have a species of cybernetic life forms with organic controlling nanites inside of them in the franchise already. Do we really want to expose our resident cyborg to another bunch of nanites which could possibly control him and do all sorts of shit?
Yeah, so it seemed like a dumb call on their part sending him in the first place, but then when they do, again, nothing is really done with it, so I was like, I feel like that's either just an oversight or a missed opportunity. But the actual storyline going on with that, I thought was pretty good. I liked the reveal of the microscopic Intrepid. And again, I like the message behind the personal storyline there that, you need to communicate with people in order to effectively end a relationship, begin one, whatever it might be. Communication is very important. You can't just freeze someone out and expect things to just kind of work themselves out for you, which I thought was nice. So I enjoyed that storyline.
Again, there were quite a few sort of funny moments in this episode as well, without it being like too over the top. I did like all the T'Lyn sort of fangirl stuff for Krog.
Those were probably my favorite parts of the episode. I really enjoyed that.
Poor Boimler's escapades in working with the others as well were also pretty funny.
We got probably the longest Boimler scream ever on the show with him falling off that cliff. Like, I'm almost positive that has to be the longest one we've ever gotten.
You did also notice that his the Riker beard is coming along further than we saw last episode. So I think this is going to be the running theme as we go along this final season, is like how much of that Riker beard is he going to end up with by the end.
We know he's not growing a full one, but he's sure going to try, it would seem.
Oh, that's so cruel. But yeah, I don't have anything else to say really about the episode. Do you?
No. I thought it was a good one. Probably my second favorite of the three. I just didn't particularly like forcing the Admiral back into his command. I'm like, again, if the man doesn't want to do it anymore, then leave him alone. Like, decommission him, call it a day.
Right, well, let us know down in the comments what you thought about this episode of Lower Decks if you have seen it. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. And we'll see you next week for the next episode of Lower Decks. I'm sorry if our videos are just doing reviews at the moment. We just want to get through, this season of Lower Decks, and then we'll be back to some more sort of freeform content after. But yeah, if you are hanging with us and watching these, we do thank you. And until next time, it is goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.